Okay, so rear roller disassembly. It's not as scary as it looks. I know a lot of people don't tend to pull these apart just because they don't want to open a can of worms, maybe, I'm not sure. But first things first, on the drive end we have a woodruff key, so we need to remove that. Once we've got the woodruff key out, we can remove this bearing off the shaft. Same on the other end. However, there's no woodruff key, so we've got to remove the bearing off there. And once we've got the bearings off, we can pull off the, I'm not sure, it's like a collar. So there's a collar on each end of the shaft which holds the actual drum on the shaft. So we'll remove the collar, remove the drum. Once we've got the drum off, we will open the drum up and remove all the contents from the drum, and everything will be in pieces. I'll get that all sandblasted, primed, painted, powder coated, not sure what I'm going to do yet. So that's what I'm doing here, and watch along. Okay, so I've got both retaining blocks off each end of the shaft. Now we've done that, the actual drums of the rollers will pull off the shaft, and that will leave us the shaft, two drums, and basically we would be 98% disassembled for the rear roller. So a little bit of a trick to get these off, just make sure your shaft is as clean as you can get it. I honestly find if you have no dirt or grime on your shaft, these will slip off, as will bearings, a lot easier. It's just going to make your life so much better. Anyway, we've got them off. It is extremely dirty and messy, which is a little bit concerning, but there's also a lot of grease there as well, which is sort of a good thing. So we'll pull the drums off, inspect the shaft. Once we've inspected the shaft, we'll pull the drums apart. So. Okay, so we've got the shaft out of the drums. When you do that, you'll notice that these little triangle pointy looking things fall out. So they're called paws. These paws are pretty crucial, and definitely do not lose them, is what I'm saying. So they're a cast steel, and they're a specific shape. Basically they prevent your roller from going, if you rotate it, one side spins, one doesn't. It also prevents you from pulling it backwards when the reels engage, all sorts of things. So basically what I'm saying is don't lose them, pop them aside, very safe, clean them up, and also if you're going to restore it, do not paint them. Painting them is a big no-no. You will cause yourself issues. So I'll pop them over there. Shaft itself actually doesn't look in too bad a condition. There's a small amount of wear here that I'm looking at. That could potentially be why my roller sort of was off, or it could actually be probably more so where the brass bush on the roller is sitting. So maybe the brass bush needs replacing, but that's not an issue. I'll replace them and I'll see where we're at. Well, it's not too bad. I might get away with not replacing this shaft. Really like to not replace it because it's not a common part. Also, when disassembling these, I do not remove this center cob. Now you can, and it's quite simple. All you have to do is undo that grub screw. There's a woodruff key in there, but that will slide off one end. I don't do that for a reason. Now I don't do that because that is in a very particular spot. It's basically dead center of that shaft, and that's telling me exactly where those rollers need to sit. If you take that off, you're not going to know where that spot is anymore. So I leave that on there, and I'll clean the shaft up, and I'll clean all this up with it all in place. So that's just how I do it. I'm sure other people pull it all apart. I don't actually see a need or a reason to remove that. So we'll carry on. We'll get the rear rollers disassembled. Okay, before we do the rear rollers, we're just going to push these bearings out. So that's simple. All I do is grab a socket. Socket will go in this side, and I'll hit that with a hammer. And basically that's just going to apply pressure to the center of that bearing, and that bearing will slip out this side. So I'll just do that quickly now. Okay, so I've upset all the dogs in the neighbourhood. However, those bearings have been removed now. You can see how disgusting they are. They are not in any good condition. It's almost like someone's had them out and tried to repack them themselves, possibly. I also noted this one here. So this one actually has a fair amount of glue, or bearing compound probably. And that was basically glued that bearing in place there. So obviously that bearing doesn't quite fit into the housing properly, and someone's gone ahead and glued that in there themselves. So hopefully that doesn't cause us issues down the track, though I'm suspecting it will. And also there is a spring. Now there is a spring in one of these bearing houses. So the side with three holes, see this side has one hole and then two ovals. So the side with three holes should have a spring in there. Now this spring's a spacer, and it is meant to be in there. So that would sit in there with the bearing on top. So when you pull that out, just make sure that the spring, you keep that, and don't let it go flying around your shed, because I do not believe you will be able to buy a new one. So make sure you keep it. Alright, so someone call me crazy when I tell you this, but be careful of spiders and be careful of snakes. Now, you will find them in a lot of rear rollers. I've pulled apart 4 or 5 of these now, and I'll tell you what, there's been spider shells in every single one of them. I'm not a fan of spiders, so I'll do this cautiously. Basically there's 3 bolts at the top of each. I'll remove them. This is a cast steel or cast iron, and it is quite brittle, so if they are stuck or don't come easily, soak them in lubricant, and just continue to soak them in lubricant until it becomes easy. If you crack this, basically you will not be able to replace that. Now there are guys that are making rear rollers, and that's excellent to hear. So hopefully in the near future you will be able to buy a rear roller, but as it stands right now you can't. So just be aware of that is all I'm saying. Okay, that won't make sense right now, but you'll see soon why I did that. So now we've done that, make sure we clean all that up as best as we can, so get as much dirt off that as possible. Okay, so once I've done that, I'll get my WD-40, or I'm using CRC 556, same thing, it's just a multi-purpose lubricant. And I'll spray that right around the edge. So definitely don't go light on that, use a lot of it. Basically what I did with the pick is removed all the dirt and grime from this little lip here. So this inner part here will slip up that lip there. So it's the same concept as having it pulling the bearing off the shaft. If you remove as much dirt and rust or grime or whatever's on there, in theory the center part should slip out a lot easier. If there was dirt there, it would just get jammed in the sort of sleeve. That's what I was trying to avoid. So it also creates a small gap where the penetrate can go down. So whatever you're using, just try not to use an oil. Try and use more of a sort of like a silicone spray opposed to like a thick lubricant oil. I find that it will just get into a smaller, tighter gap than something that's thicker. So I'm going to let that sit there for a good while. So I'm thinking probably 2 or 3 hours before I even attempt the next step. So we'll skip forward to that anyway. Alright, so I very nearly did not film this because I know a lot of people are going to be quite upset. So before I do anything here and show you how I'm going to get these end pieces out, full disclosure, this is cast iron. It does snap quite easily and you cannot buy new parts for a roller as of yet. So basically what I'm saying right now is you do this at your own accord. Now I've done this to a few rollers. I have never had an issue. However, there are people who have had problems and broken their rear roller. In that case, you're up for a new roller. So, full disclosure, this is not a certain way of doing this and not having any issues. Anyway, that's been now soaking for heck 2 hours plus maybe. What I'm going to do now is tip the roller over the 2 holes on the other end. I'm going to push a rod up there. The rod will go through the roller and I'm going to make sure that's sitting on one of these spikes here. And then I'm going to tap that. I'm going to keep doing that and keep evenly tapping all the way around until this end piece pops out. Now this may not happen straight away and I may have to just let this soak even longer, but we'll give it a go. And one other thing I'll also note, do not turn the roller upside down and whack it. That's how you're going to break it. Basically, you can see all the rubbish coming out of there. Basically, I'm going to have this on my bench like this, the rod up the back, and I'm going to hit it. Now I'm going to let all the shock of that sort of vibrate everywhere across my bench through the roller. I'm not going to have that clamped down and hit it. If you do that, there's going to be too much force, and that to me is when you're going to crack or break the cast iron. So like I said, I very nearly did not show you how I go about doing this. I'm sure there's many other ways you can go about doing this. It's just how I do it. Okay. So the bar that I use is this. This is the front roller shaft. So this has come out of a 14-inch model. However, I keep this under my bench and I use it for exactly this purpose. It's a solid bar. It'll go through the hole quite easily and you'll reach up to this other end easy. So It's just the front roller shaft. Okay. Okay, as you see, that will push out the, well, I like to call it like a bicycle wheel because it sort of looks like one, but it'll push out the end of your rear roller. Inside there you'll see that there's a PVC tube, so keep that. That's actually in there for a reason, to protect the shaft. And you'll also see 99% of the time it'll be full of rubbish. Just like this one also is. So that's how I go about doing it. Just be very, very careful when hitting cast iron. So I'm going to do the other one now. Hopefully it'll be just as easy, because that one was quite easy. Fingers crossed. Well, would you look at that? It was even easier than the other one. So I also tell you that when I'm doing that, I've got the shaft of the front roller, and I try and position that right up the top there, opposed to down here. I think if you go down there, to me there's too much vibration. If you're going up here, you're closer to the edge of the roller. I believe that's probably the key spot, but it also is the thinnest spot of the cast iron. So just don't hit it too hard. Little taps, and many little taps is probably better than one big tap. Just my own input on that. So do that at your own expense. Anyway, that'll be it for this video. Again, more rubbish from the rear roller. This will get sandblasted. I get them to sandblast all inside there as best they can, and just prime that, and that's how that would stay. So I don't actually paint inside them, I just prime it. Primer is a paint basically, and that should hopefully prevent rust, or hopefully anyway. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and next video we've still got to get the clutch off the engine. So we'll get that off. Once I get the clutch off the engine, we'll actually disassemble that. I'll show you what's inside. I'm not actually going to use it. I've actually decided, because this mower needs so many parts replaced on the top end, that I am actually thinking of going down a different option. Yeah, I'm not sure yet. Anyway, that'll be a future video, and we'll see where we go. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.